So I'm 38 years old, and I was reflecting on that this morning, thinking about the fact that I now have 20 years of advice that I could give my 18-year-old self. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. If I did have a chance to talk to the 18-year-old version of myself, I've been thinking about that version of me this morning, what I would say to myself, and also the insecurities that I was dealing with at the time. And a lot of this advice is based on those insecurities. So the three main areas of insecurity that I identified that I was probably struggling with as an 18-year-old are finding my calling, finding a way to make enough money, and then finding my partner. Those are the three things that I think were most top of mind for me as an 18-year-old kid just starting college and thinking about what I need to be doing with my life. So the first bit of advice that I would give to that 18-year-old version of me who was trying to decide what career path I should choose, what I should be doing, the first bit of advice I would give is that there is no hidden information. The internet has everything. And at that point in my life, I was still convinced that college was what successful people did. I'd heard about the occasional outlier, the Steve Jobs who dropped out, the Bill Gates who dropped out, right? But I knew that I wasn't a Steve Jobs or a Bill Gates. I was just a regular nerdy kid. And I didn't think that I had enough aptitude to go drop out on my own. I needed to go be successful the normal way in my mind, which was going to college, because that's the world that our parents grew up in. And in a lot of ways, that is still the world that we live in. Like, obviously, there are a lot of benefits to college, but one thing has changed, and that there is no hidden information. Those college libraries are no longer sacred institutions of hidden information. All that stuff is on the internet now. If you actually want to learn organic chemistry or advanced math or any of these college level courses, there are literally Harvard classes on YouTube that Harvard has put out for free from some of the best professors of all time. All the information is out there. And college is expensive, not just money, obviously, but for your time, for your opportunity as well. And for me, I spent 5 years in college, where now I recognize that I would consider my calling to be a form of entrepreneurship, of starting my own business. And in a way, that just delayed my path to get there, going to college. And going to college did give me a lot of other things. It gave me confidence in myself that I could do these kinds of things, but there's a lot of ways to gain confidence. And I think what I would encourage 18-year-old me to recognize is that college is for opportunity, but it is not for knowledge. And that if you have a desire for knowledge, it is all there in front of you. And the onus is on you to capture it, to read it, to learn. And in fact, of all the people who were equipped to learn on their own from something like the internet, it's such a cute Xbox game. I've never seen that one before, Rainbow High. I was a weird kid. Just to cut straight to it, I was homeschooled. And I think we all feel weird in a way, but I had a lot of nervousness about whether or not I was as smart as other kids, because I hadn't really ever stacked myself up against anyone else before. And I ended up doing fine in college once I applied myself. But the knowledge was all available to me already. And I think that I figured that I'd be gaining some secret knowledge on my quest to find a career. And that wasn't the case. In fact, I got a lot of old, outdated information at college, as you would expect, right? So there is no hidden information. College is for opportunities, but if you actually want the information, you just got to download it on the internet, download it straight to your brain. There was a very formative movie in my childhood, The Matrix, and there's a scene where a character downloads the information on how to fly a helicopter, I think. Like, they're trying to escape. They don't know how to fly the helicopter, so they just close their eyes and flutter their eyelids, and suddenly the information comes into their brain. And I remember probably being 11 or 12 at the time watching that movie, and thinking that was the absolute coolest thing, and that I wish that that could happen one day in the future. And what I didn't recognize was that it was already happening. the Matrix was quite prescient, but a lot of that technology was already happening. And I kind of see YouTube as a very similar idea to that character in the Matrix closing their eyes and downloading all the information into your brain. We all have that capability. Like, I have learned how to fix my car by typing in the exact year and make and model of my car into YouTube and watching someone take their camera into the hood of the car and show me exactly what to do in a car that looks exactly like mine within seconds, as if I was downloading the information right to my brain. Like, it still has to go through my eyeballs. That's the only difference between this and the Matrix, and a few more seconds of time, but I'm already learning. I'm getting straight to the information I need within seconds. Like, we really are living in the future. The information is everywhere. You know, the opportunity is there. And as somebody now who sees my calling as entrepreneurship, as starting my own business, in a way, going to college delayed that journey of developing those skills that I've needed the most in my entrepreneurial journey. So going back to my 18-year-old self, I definitely wouldn't say don't go to college, because there were a lot of wonderful things that I got out of it, but I would just make sure that I'm going for the right reasons. I think college can be great for connections, for meeting people, for obviously for certain careers, it's necessary, right? But so much of the information, if you want to learn a craft, it's all there. There's nothing hidden behind those tuition fees anymore. So I would just encourage myself that you can learn this stuff. As a weird homeschool kid, you were actually uniquely equipped to learn things on your own. I always have been good at learning things on my own because I was a homeschool weird kid who had to do a lot of my homework on my own. So that kind of leads me to my second bit of advice to my younger self, my 18-year-old self, who's wondering, what's my purpose? What's my calling? I would encourage you or the younger me to ask, what do people ask my advice for all the time that I might not even realize? What are my aptitudes that people trust me with just naturally? And that's a great start to trying to figure out your calling, or whatever you might consider to be your calling, is that thing that combines all of your unique skills and talents into a single job. For me, I do kind of see eBay entrepreneurship as that thing, but I didn't recognize it at the time that all of my talents for fixing electronics, as a kid, I was the one that people asked if I would fix their computer. You know, family members or aunts and uncles or neighbors, if I could program their VCR. I actually liked that stuff. I liked reading the manuals and figuring out how things worked. And that has become my job, is figuring out how things work and then fixing them. So one question to ask yourself, if you're wondering what is your calling, is what do people ask you for help with? Or what do people ask you for advice about? And I would encourage myself, younger me, to be thinking about that. What do people trust me with? What do people ask my advice about? Back then it would have been, what computer do I buy? What's a good video card? That kind of stuff. That's the stuff I was into. And in fact, 10 years later, early on in my eBay career, one of the first things that I did on eBay was bought and sold gaming computers and gaming computer parts, because that's what I was into as a kid. But I wasn't flipping it then. I didn't realize until much later what an opportunity that was. So to start thinking about, what are your gifts? What are your natural talents that you might not recognize? That's a great question to get you started on the path. What is that unique career you're going to have? Okay, the next bit of advice I would give myself, and this is more of encouragement. That's fun. Grand Theft Auto 4 Special Edition. It comes in a lockbox. That's awesome. Really cool. I've never seen that before. Is this for 360? Grand Theft Auto 4 Special Edition. So cool. The one thing that I think I got totally right as an 18-year-old that I would encourage myself on, just to keep going, is that physical health was exactly as important as I thought it was. Even at 18, I was quite obsessed with physical health, getting into things like bodybuilding and learning how much protein I needed to eat and different gym routines. And I definitely went a little bit too hard on the bodybuilding side. I'll address that in a little while. So I think that's a really common mistake for a lot of young men. I guess I'll go ahead and get into it now. Is to assume that more muscles is better. So I had insecurity about my looks as an 18-year-old, as a lot of us do. And I thought that I needed to get in the gym, which was a good thought. Getting healthy, I think becoming the best version of yourself is the way to go. But the advice that I was looking at was bodybuilding advice. Guys with these massive muscles that looked like, the guys on the covers of magazines. And I was just getting that all wrong. Because a lot of it was motivated by wanting to find a partner and find a partner that I thought was attractive. And so I wanted to become the most attractive version of myself so that I could match up to an attractive partner that I might find one day. But getting too deep on the bodybuilding side and wanting to get super muscular, I think is actually just kind of lacking awareness of what your dream partner might actually want. So in my case, as a heterosexual male, I noticed in a lot of other heterosexual guys who were trying to get the attention of women that they would spend a lot of time in the gym trying to get the biggest muscles they could. There's a guy that I follow on YouTube, and he's changed now, but his YouTube channel is called More Plates, More Dates. Plates referring to like the weight plates on the side of the bar. So if I could just lift more weight, I could get more dates, more plates, more dates. And that would be the dream for every nerdy kid like me, who, if it was just like a video game, all I need to do is get muscles and the girls will come to me. Well, great. That's actually not what it's about. I think becoming the most attractive version of yourself is important, but women are not looking for Ronnie Coleman, these giant Mr. Olympia muscle mound guys. Like honestly, that impresses other dudes. And if you look at the guys, the physiques that women are actually attracted to, you're gonna look at like David Beckham or Brad Pitt, right? These are not huge muscle-bound figures. They're just guys that look fit. I think that a lot of women are a lot more socially aware naturally, if I can make that generalization, especially at that younger age of 18, where I recognize a lot of lack of social awareness in myself. And what I didn't recognize is that a woman who's socially aware, a mature woman, hopefully, that you'd want to date, would be able to picture the two of you together walking down a street. And if you look a certain way, like this big, giant, muscle-bound person, and your partner looks like maybe somebody who goes to the gym but isn't as dedicated as you, people will start to make assumptions. Why does this person look like this and like this? There needs to be some kind of like fairness or parity there, right? I think a woman who's more mature, and hopefully a guy too, once you get in this mindset, that's why I'm trying to explain this to an 18-year-old version of me, they're going to imagine you two as a couple, and you guys need to match. And so unless you only want to date other super muscular people who are super into fitness, maybe other bodybuilders, to have a bodybuilder physique that becomes this outrageous thing could actually make you less attractive to a lot of people. And so it's not just about more plates, more dates. That would be the thing, is that health is important, yes, become a healthy version of yourself, but getting more muscles is not going to get you your dream partner. So, something to think about. Next, the health is important. And back then, even though I had barely any money, the money that I did have, a good portion of it was going to fish oil, creatine, and vitamin D. And those are still the core of my supplement routine today. And I'm so happy that I invested that money. Even back then, when I barely had enough money for tuna and rice and eggs, I took the time and I made sacrifices to buy myself fish oil, creatine, and vitamin D. And I'm so glad that I did. I still take all three of those to this day. And I think that those are some of the most bang for your buck, dollar return supplements that you can possibly buy. Especially creatine. People don't recognize creatine is actually really good for your cognitive abilities as well. It's not just for building muscle. In fact, creatine is more about retaining water and retaining hydration in the specific places where you need it, like your brain and your muscles. And so yes, you may gain 1, 2, 3 pounds of weight when you go on creatine, and that's water weight, but it's water where you want it. It's in your muscles, it's in your brain, it's in places where your body can then use those stores of water. So I'm a big advocate of creatine. It's also pennies per day. And I'm so glad that I started taking it back then. Creatine is not something that you feel right away. That's why it's not the most popular drug in the world, even though it is one of the most researched drugs in the world, literally, as far as human trials. There have been so many studies on creatine. It is so safe, it is so well tolerated. But it takes a week or two for the stores to build up in your body to the point where you start to notice the effects, and it's kind of slow, and so you don't get that big boom like a pre-workout or something. But creatine really is one of the best things you can do for your body. I really do believe that. I apologize for all the nasal stuff. We're still getting over a cold over here, as I mentioned in the last video. We're out here getting that vitamin D, the natural vitamin D, but I also take vitamin D. I think that's incredibly important. All right, so advice for my younger self: physical health is exactly as important as you think, but the biggest muscles possible is not the goal. That's not the goal here. I'm gonna take a quick break here. Just took a minute there to talk to our mail carrier, but we're gonna get back to advice for my younger self here. So physical health is as important as you think. This is a long race, and if you have more energy at the end of the day to be able to work on your business, you will win at the end of the day. And I think that the best way to have that energy is to feel like you have a purpose, and then to have the physical health to support it. Physical health is so important, and being able to preserve that when you're young is a lot easier than trying to fight your way back uphill later on after you've already lost that health. So younger me was also thinking a lot about dating and meeting girls. And I mentioned that a little bit before, where I think some of my advice would be just to be healthy, but don't try to spend all your time eating 200 grams of protein a day, following bodybuilder diets and try to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Ronnie Coleman. That is not the goal. And that is not even what your dream person probably wants. They probably just want someone who looks fit, just like the people they see in magazines. But I don't think girls are the ones looking at those intense men's bodybuilding magazines, again, with the bulging veins and all that. I don't think that's what people are into. You just want to look healthy. So whatever the healthy version of yourself is, I think that's what we should be going for. So when it comes to finding a partner, as an 18-year-old, I read a lot of advice and listened to a lot of advice from these guys that called themselves pickup artists, the PUA community. And I don't know what the modern equivalent for young guys these days is. Like, I don't know who guys these days are getting dating advice from, except for the red pill weirdos. Hopefully not them. I don't even know. But the kind of advice that I got was often, here's how you act confident. Here's how you do the peacocking, where you have some silly thing that you wear that shows that you're not afraid to be quirky. And here's how you tell stories to appear interesting. And I think that my advice for 18-year-old me, reading and listening to all this stuff based in insecurity about how to meet girls, is what I was worried about, would be that instead of learning these techniques to feign confidence, to just work on becoming confident. And if you're insecure, to just work on those areas of yourself until you're the kind of person who's ready and feels ready to meet that dream person. They don't feel as if you need to be faking it. That would be my advice, would be to just work on yourself until you feel like if you were to walk past your dream person in the street, you'd be in the position to want to go talk to them. And that is one of my best bits of advice too, is that you should, if you're looking for a partner, you need to always be on and looking. I always figured I'd probably meet my life partner at like a grocery store or something, just doing something normal. And because I don't typically go to bars, like that's not my normal lifestyle. So I didn't imagine that would be where I met my person either. I imagined I'd meet my person doing something normal, the kind of stuff that I enjoy doing, like going to a Whole Foods or something. So instead of feigning confidence, work on just becoming a confident person. And if that means you need to work on yourself to the point where you have a life that you're proud of, do that first. Get yourself in the position to meet your dream person instead of working on the routines to try to win over someone before that. In the same way, telling these interesting stories, a lot of the pickup artist community would encourage you to learn these interesting stories to keep them engaged while you're trying to woo someone or take them out on a date. And we take them on all these emotional highs and lows. And instead of that, I would encourage the younger me to just get some interesting stories, to become an interesting person. But if you are insecure about not having enough interesting stories to tell about yourself, then go make some stories. Go live a life. Become the person that is ready for your dream person. Instead of focusing so much on finding and dating, just work on becoming the kind of person that it would be inevitable that you find your dream person. I think it's a whole different way of thinking about it, but I think is a lot less anxiety producing in a way, and a lot more empowering. You just work on yourself. The other mindset shift I would encourage myself to get into about dating, in one of the biggest reasons for anxiety when I was dating, or thinking about dating, or thinking about asking a girl out to a dance or something in college, was that I was imagining myself in the hot seat on the interview, or like as if I was in an interview on these dates, and I was just imagining being judged and this girl just looking me up and down and asking if I was worthy. And while that is all happening, the mindset is off. I think that it's actually possible to go into a date as if you're the interviewer, and to sit down across from this other person at a coffee shop or at the restaurant, and to think to yourself, what do you have to offer me? Like, I'm not going to spend this entire evening trying to impress you. I'm going to be asking you questions about you, which coincidentally will also endear the person to you. If you are genuinely interested in asking questions, that can be the start of a great relationship. But also, I want to know if you're worthy of stepping into my life. I think that sets you up to be more attractive, because that will appear more confident. But also, it takes away the anxiety that you should be determining if this person's worthy. You're not just looking for anyone. But I got into that mindset of, I just need to be approved, so much so that I was hoping that this person would like me before I even knew them, before I even should have cared if they liked me or not. And so instead of spending that first date trying to win over someone that I don't even know, spend that date trying to get to know them, but interview them, like ask them questions. Who are they? What are they here for? What are their passions? And I think that will also put you in the position, again, of being more attractive, because you'll put yourself in the position of having value, of not just saying, I'll take anyone, please like me, but to be asking, are you worthy of coming onto this fun adventure with me? And it really does change the entire dynamic of dating once you start interviewing the other person instead of trying to win them over. You don't... you do win. You can win the approval of others. You can win the ego boost. But at the end of the day, the goal is not to get everyone to like you. The goal is to find your person. And that's going to require searching and questions, like probing questions. I think I'm a big fan of getting down to like big life type questions early on in the date, first or second date, in your dating life. Getting to know someone and getting to know if this is worth your time or not. I was dating to find my person. I wasn't just dating just to date, right? All right. That would be my advice about finding my calling. My advice to my younger self would be to look at the things that people ask you for advice for. That would be my advice on dating. That become the best version of yourself, but don't try to impress anyone. Wait to be impressed on these dates and in your dating life. Finally, I would give some money advice, and it's very short and simple. And I wish, oh my gosh, this might be the most life-changing information had I known this at the age of 18. And it's just these few simple words. eBay can be a job. I did not know this. I had no idea. I loved buying and selling. I always loved going to thrift stores. I had no idea eBay could be a job until much later in my life when I found people on YouTube talking about it. I literally didn't know this could be a full-time thing. I think that would have changed my entire outlook on life if I could have just kept going to the thrift stores that I was already going to. But then if I had an outlet, you know, I was already going to places like Buffalo Exchange trying to sell clothes and places like GameStop trying to sell games, but I just never put it all together until just a few years ago, honestly, when I recognized that eBay is this online marketplace that allows me to sell all of this junk that I don't even like anyway. I don't like junk. I like getting rid of things. I like stacking cash, honestly. That's what eBay allows us to do, is to take these things that we buy. I love buying and selling. I've always loved buying and selling. Ever since I was a kid, I love taking my video games into GameStop. This is what I want to be doing. And I just didn't recognize that the opportunity was so large on eBay that this could actually be a full-time job. I think had I known that at 18, I would have started selling on an eBay account way earlier, and I might have been on this career track way sooner than I am now. So that would be the advice to my younger self. Hope you've enjoyed this. Hope you've got some work done here. It's a fun little work sesh. I'm going to be processing some video game consoles soon and taking you along with me on that. So anyway, thank you so much for all the support on YouTube. Profit First Reseller, Joe here. Thank you for joining me. I'm out.